power belongs to the people. To name a few of the No Kings events I'm talking about, we're excited to see 11 rallies across Speaker Johnson's home state of Louisiana. I'm fired up about the protest happening in Bryson City, North Carolina, a town with a population of just 1,200 people. There's an event in Storm Lake, Iowa, home to 12,000. And one of my favorites in Traverse City, Michigan, No Kings protesters are donating food to local food banks as a part of their event. The list goes on and on. Over 2,600 events, millions of people. The right to protest, to assemble, to speak is what America is all about. And Move On's millions of members are ready to come together this Saturday, October 18th, to express that right. Trump, the Republican Party, and their billionaire donors, they think everything belongs to them, but they're wrong. This is our country, and we cannot afford to wait any longer to make our voices heard. Thank you. And with that, I'll pass it over to one of our movement's fearless leaders, Sarah Parker with 5051 and Voices of Florida.
Thank you so much, Katie. Hi, guys. My name is Sarah Parker. I am a 5051 National Coordinator. I'm also the Executive Director of Voices of Florida. And I think I'm here most importantly to not only thank all the national partners, but also thank the heroes in this story, the real heroes in this story. And those are your everyday Americans. This movement was built by the people. The name was chosen by the people. They created this momentum, and they are this movement. Every rally, every march, and every community gathering has been planned by local organizers, by organizers that never picked up a megaphone since the beginning of this year, that organizers that are doing it for their first time ever. These are everyday Americans coming together to organize, just like Katie said. These are faith leaders, teachers, veterans, small business owners who are being impacted by extreme and dubious, dare I say, tariffs. These are people that are seeing their friends and their family members be kidnapped off of the streets. These are everyday Americans that are struggling to put groceries into their fridge. And these are millennials and Gen Zers who were promised a beautiful and free America, just like me. And they're using their God-given American right to peacefully assemble. And they are rising to this moment because they feel it is not only their duty, it is their obligation to joyfully and peacefully push back against authoritarianism, like the generations that have come before us. As a millennial, I remember saying the pledge every single day, growing up in the middle of nowhere, Georgia. I said that with hope and honor. And I love my country. And if anyone says differently, it's smoke and mirrors. It's a distraction, and it's plain old cowardice. They are refusing to accept the fact that the American people are pissed by the millions. They are refusing to accept the fact that their actions are harming our beloved country. They are refusing to look in the mirror and accept the fact that they are destroying America. And let's call it what it is. It's a lack of accountability and denial. We have a saying in the South, a hit dog will holler, and I'm hearing a lot of noise from Washington, D.C. right now. And with that said, on October 18th, millions of people just like me, mothers, Black women, multicultural, multi-generational people are going to take the streets peacefully and say there will be no kings in America. And with that being said, I would like to pass it over to Robert, one of our amazing leaders.
Thanks so much, Sarah, and everybody. I wanted to say a few words about lawfulness and lawlessness. This Saturday, as we've been hearing, millions of Americans are going to join together in every state, from every walk of life, in every neighborhood, to engage in peaceful, nonviolent, lawful, pro-Constitution, pro-democracy protests on a scale never seen in modern American history. That's lawfulness. Unfortunately, also unprecedentedly, we live under the most unlawful administration in American history. The evidence of that is all around us. It's in the illegal firings celebrated by this administration. It's in the illegal efforts to refuse to spend money and shutter agencies that are congressionally created. It's in an illegal assassination program against people that the administration alleges are doing harm to the United States, but wouldn't be guilty of capital offenses even if those claims were true. It's in the illegal kidnappings of people off our streets based on their political views. It is also evident in the refusal to enforce the law or to enforce the law selectively. This administration, within its first 100 days, dropped 100 enforcement actions against large corporations. It pledged it would not prosecute corporations for engaging in foreign bribery. It shuttered or tried to shutter the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the agency that cracks down on financial fraudsters. It's even gone so far as to pardon corporations. It is a lawless administration. And it is an administration aggressively and increasingly aggressively trying to stifle dissent, unlawfully and unconstitutionally. We see that in the weaponization of the Department of Justice and the selective persecution of purported political enemies of the president. We see that in the effort to crack down on the media, to intimidate the media, to deny press passes, to try to force programs opposing Donald Trump off the air. We see that in the deployment of the National Guard on false pretexts that are plainly designed to intimidate and stifle dissent. And we see that in the increasing threat of criminal prosecution against organizations and individuals who oppose the president. Every American should rise against these threats. No American should have to take their kid to school walking by threatening our military, and no American should want any other American to have to do that. No American should fear jail time because of their political views, and no American should want any American to fear jail time because of their political views. So we're responding to these threats with this unprecedented protest. This protest is no threat to national security, as it has been ludicrously claimed. But more than that, protest is a sign of our freedom. Protest is how we make our country stronger. It's what has made our country stronger for 250 years. And every major advance of progress has been driven by protest on the streets. This is the underlying theory of the No Kings protests for this Saturday. We are going to turn out in unprecedented numbers, and we protect our democracy by vigorously exercising our democratic rights. And we're going to do both those things. We're going to vigorously exercise our democratic rights, peacefully and nonviolently, and against this tyrannical threat of Donald Trump and his administration, we are going to protect American democracy. With that, let me throw it over to Jaime Contreras from SEIU BJ.
Thank you, Robert, and thanks everybody for the eloquent words. I'm Jaime Contreras. I'm an Executive Vice President for SEIU 32BJ. Our union represents 185,000 janitors, security officers, airport workers, and service employees up and down the East Coast, including 2,400 federal contractor workers along the East Coast as well. We're part of the 2 million strong SEIU family. But I also come to you as an immigrant, somebody who frankly was brought here undocumented in 1988 by my parents. I was 13 years old. But I'm also a veteran of the United States Navy. So some of the things that are happening with this administration are, offensive to say the least. And I do feel for our servicemen and women who are being put probably against their will in some of the streets of our cities. But with that said, every day our members clean and protect federal and commercial office buildings up and down the East Coast, higher education institutions, and they are the ones that keep our airport running. We organize for justice, for dignity, for respect, but we don't just mobilize and organize ourselves. We mobilize and organize for everyone, for working families, for immigrants, for every community that's being targeted under this administration. We organize for everyone that deserves to live and work with dignity. On October 18th, SEIU members will be in the streets across the country as part of the No Kings, because America belongs to the people, working people, not to billionaires or a few politicians who think they can rule like kings in a democracy like ours. Let me be clear. Our movement, as you've heard from other presenters, is a peaceful movement. It always has been. It's a disciplined movement, and it's a union strong movement. We've been organizing workers for generations, and we know what solidarity looks like. Every No Kings action has trained marshals, community safety teams, and partners with local organizations to make our message powerful and peaceful. Now, Speaker Johnson can laugh all he wants, but blaming working people for his own government shutdown is beneath the office that he holds. The real threat to this country isn't peaceful protesters. It's politicians shutting down our government to protect billionaires and corporate greed. What's ironic to me is you call peaceful protesters terrorists, but then the people who destroyed our nation's Capitol building, patriots. That's so ironic and so far from the truth. This isn't just about one day. SEIU members are organizing year round in our workplaces, our neighborhoods, and at the ballot box to build a country that works for all of us. We're saying no to authoritarian power grabs, no to government shutdowns that hurt working people, including military families, and no to billionaires getting richer while workers get left behind. We're saying yes to health care for all, and child care for all. Yes to strong unions. Yes to immigrant justice. And yes to a democracy that works for the people who actually make this country run every day. And we also, when we say No Kings, we mean it. America doesn't belong to a handful of CEOs or politicians. It belongs to the janitors, the teachers, the airport workers, restaurant workers, the construction people, farmers, healthcare workers, the people who get up every morning and keep this country running. We fought for better pay, safer jobs, and the right to organize, and we've won. We'll keep organizing, we'll keep mobilizing, because we know that when working people stand together, no king, no billionaires, no politician can stop us. On October 18th and every day, we'll show the world what democracy really looks like. So I'll end by saying no thrones, no clowns with crowns, no kings, just working people united in power to defend our democracy. Now it is my honor to introduce our next speaker, who is the president of the American Federation of Teachers, also an educator, Randy Weingarten.
Thank you so much, Jaime, and thank you. I'm honored to be with everyone who is here. I speak in two capacities today. First, as a high school social studies teacher, and second, as the long-term leader of the 1.8 million member AFT, which represents public employees, healthcare employees, educators from Head Start to tenured faculty, and all across America. People who make a difference every day in the lives of other Americans. And I stand with every person's comments here. But I want to start as a social studies teacher, because I have been quite shocked that people who take an oath of office to the American Constitution, a constitution that says in its First Amendment that there is a right to peaceful assembly. The pillar of our democracy is our right to speak, our right to be free, our right to be the rebellious people that our founders were 249 years ago. Now, I don't want to basically say that the founders were the greatest about everything, but they had this idea. And that idea was we are becoming a nation of laws, a nation built on ideas and aspirations of imperfect men who knew we needed a process to perfect the union. And they knew more than anything else that one thing they wanted to make sure would never, ever happen again was that a monarch or a king would rule us, that it was going to be a nation of laws and a nation of people. That is what the No Kings movement is rooted in. So whether you are Jaime or me, who believe in workers' rights, who believe in this fight to make sure that premiums don't skyrocket for the 25 million people who get Obamacare, whether you believe in collective bargaining or you don't, whether you believe in public schools or you don't, whether you believe in a whole bunch of things or you don't. America is about being able to fight over those issues in a nonviolent, peaceful way. And that is what No Kings is about. And that is why, regardless of whether people are Democrats or independents or Republicans, they are coming out on October 18th. They're coming out for their future. They're coming out to make sure that grocery prices don't keep escalating. They're coming out to make sure that they have a future and their kids have a future. That's who we are. So how would someone who is sworn to the Constitution say this is about hating America? This is about loving America. This is about wanting to have a future and wanting all of us to have a future. And that is why my union is proudly supporting No Kings as we did in June, as we supported Hands Off in April, because at the end of the day, we the people are the ones who are going to ensure whether or hope whether this country remains a democracy or not. We have an obligation to the people in America to fight for the people in America. Just like those 249 years ago, just like those in the civil rights movement, that is our obligation. That is our moral obligation. And we are all taking that moral obligation on to have a peaceful, nonviolent protest. And what you're seeing across America is that people are coming out, and no threat and no smear is going to, just like no threat and no smear stops teachers from teaching children, no threat and no smear is going to stop us from trying to make sure this is a country of law, this is a country of freedom, and this is a country where we see a democracy going forward, not backward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Randy. I wanted to, we're going to open it up for a few questions from the media. If folks could use the raise hand function, if you would like to ask a question, and I'll send you a request to unmute. Oren, if you could just say your name and the publication you're representing.
Hi, I'm Oren Oppenheim. I'm with ABC News National. Thanks so much for doing this. Wanted to ask two quick questions. First off, specifically on the No Kings protests planned in California. I know there's been some reports over Vice President J.D. Vance visiting Camp Pendleton and possible highway closures and ammunition fire, live fire activities, and Governor Newsom's been raising alarms about that. What are you guys tracking with that? How are you making plans if areas are closed or if there are safety concerns? Do you think some of that is in response to No Kings? And more broadly, obviously, there's been a lot of discussion, and you guys touched on this, but how would you respond to the questions that Republicans are saying of who's funding No Kings?
Thank you. Who'd like to go first?
I can go to speak for what's happening in California. I know when it comes to 5051 LA, it is business as usual. They're continuing, they have their safety measures, they're continuing to do the work. We know that they're going to throw wrenches at us in this moment. We watch them all over the media slander. The organizers are excited, the speakers are excited, the attendees are excited, and we're not going to allow them to stop us and stop this momentum when it comes to 5051 LA, from what I understand.
The,
Wow. Oh, sorry,
I'm sorry,
Randy.
you go. I'm just, this movement is fueled by people power, not by oligarchical interests. And, there are many of us who have put, funding into this movement, but this is a people power funded movement. And what you can see is just how concerned, um, the powers that be, the reaction they should have to a movement like this is to actually solve people's problems, to actually say, we are not taking away your democracy, not to actually try to be disruptive of it. If you're actually voted in by the people in a democracy, your job is to solve people's problems, not to try to make more.
Yeah. And I can only add, I guess who's funding this movement is people who care about saving our democracy. I think the question people should be asking is, do you remember who gave Donald Trump, was it 350 million or 250 million? Wasn't that Elon Musk? Why aren't people asking questions about that? Oligarchs, billionaires are the people who are funding his campaign and his, campaign to destroy our democracy. So those are the questions that we should be asking. And by the way, why don't we release the Epstein files?
Thank you so much, Jaime. I'm going to go to Alex. Alex, if you can just send your request not to unmute, if you could say your publication.
Hello, my name is Alex Cox. I'm with WRKF, the NPR affiliate in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I've heard Speaker Johnson's name come up a couple of times, and I just want to squarely get someone to address why is it so important that there are these No Kings protests in Louisiana? I believe there's 7, if I'm remembering correctly.
We'll get you that number, Alex, but Leah, do you want to take that one?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think what's important to understand here is that this is a genuinely nationwide phenomenon. It is occurring in rural places, it is occurring in urban areas, it is occurring in red places and blue places. The public backlash to Donald Trump and his regime of cronies and corruption and attacks on our rights is incredibly widespread, and in fact it's happening at a scale that we've never seen before. I'm just going to give an example. The single largest national mass day of action in the first Trump term was around 750 protests around the country for the Families Belong Together mobilizations protesting family separation in 2018. 750, which was incredible at the time. We are looking at between 2,500 and 2,600 mobilizations all over the country. Wherever you are in the country, you are not far from your local No Kings mobilization. You can get there in a half hour. And that speaks to the fact that Donald Trump's regime has created massive public backlash, including amongst people who've never thought they were political before, including amongst people who might not think of themselves as progressive or liberal before. We are seeing people come out who have never been political because they're upset about tariffs. They're upset about the economy and the cost of living crisis. They're upset because they're seeing their neighbors ripped away from their families. People are rising up everywhere. And so I think that's important to understand for Louisiana, as it is for everywhere in the country.
Thanks, Leah. Next, April, I'm going to come to you.
Hi, everyone. April with Axios here. I am wondering how your organizations will plan to respond if the National Guard is deployed to any nationwide protests on Saturday.
Deirdre, you want to take that one?
Sure. So we have done a lot of preparation and know your rights with people across the country. We just held another Know Your Rights training yesterday that had like 18,000 people at it, so that people are prepared if the National Guard is deployed. There is no way that the National Guard should be violating the rights of people to peacefully protest. They have to obey the laws of the states that they're in. Just because they are deployed does not give them permission to violate people's rights. And we do not anticipate anything other than peaceful, lawful protests around the country. I will say one additional thing, which is that we recently did some polling just to take the temperature of the American public around these National Guard deployments, and the American public is not with this. They do not approve of these deployments. 3/4 of the American public are upset about it, think that it is a misuse of the National Guard, a misuse of power, and it's a very unpopular move. So if we do not expect there to be any need for the National Guard to be deployed, but if the Trump administration attempts to do that as a way to intimidate peaceful protests, we are prepared for that.
Thank you. David, I'm going to send you a request to unmute now.
Thanks, and thanks for doing this. Just adjacent to the National Guard question, are any of your organizations monitoring the threat from counter-protesters, extremism groups on the far right? There appears to be at least some chatter on social media platforms and more fringe platforms about some groups in isolation targeting certain events, but I'm just wondering if you're actively monitoring the situation, and if so, how you're doing that. Thanks.
Deirdre or Leah?
Yeah, I mean, we have done a lot of security training with event hosts and de-escalation training. We do not anticipate, again, having anything other than peaceful protests. That is what we have trained folks to do. That is what we've organized people to do. And that is what we anticipate. If there are outside organizations who are attempting to cause problems, then we will do our best to de-escalate and ensure that these events are safe and secure. But as of now, we don't have information that indicates anything other than beautiful, peaceful protests across this country.
Agree with all that. We take the safety and security of everyone participating enormously seriously. That's why we train tens of thousands of folks. We'll continue to be in close touch with any organizers in any place where we have reason to believe there's a specific concern. I would also turn around and ask that question to Mike Johnson. I would ask that question to Republicans. Why are they inciting and smearing millions of regular Americans, teachers, veterans, members of faith communities? Why are they creating this kind of agitation directed against people who are peacefully protesting and exercising their rights?
And Lori, we can follow up with you in the chat there. Next, I'm going to go to Brad.
Yes, thank you for doing this. I'm with Reuters. I have two questions. The first one is, can you give us a specific figure number on how many millions of people you hope to see out? I know crowd estimates are always really hard, and it takes some weeks afterwards for organizations who do those sorts of estimates to come up with a number. But if you have a goal, a figure, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, I'd love to hear it. And my second question is on, I've covered protests in many countries, mass movements, and there can always be issues with outside groups sort of attaching themselves to mass movements, and they may be troublemakers or people wanting to confront police or what have you, not people who are necessarily wanting to confront you guys. Do you have any concerns about any violence happening, hours after your protest, this ban that could be associated with the protests? I saw a little bit of that after No Kings when I was in Los Angeles in June. Had nothing to do with No Kings clearly, but kind of on the edges of the No Kings protest, if you know what I mean. Are you guys combating that in any way?
Before we go to that question, just to answer, because a few folks are asking, over 2,600 events and millions to attend. is where we are on numbers, and just wanted to put that out there. And then Leah, I don't know if you were about to come off mute.
I'm happy to. I would say we're not gonna speculate about the actions of outside actors. What we are doing is working really intensively with all of our hosts to build out safety plans, make sure that everybody has the tools that they need to have peaceful and safe and joyful and defiant events all across the country.
May I add to that, Leah? And because the ACLU has done, as has Indivisible